European Union Election Observation Mission, being the EU EOM, has described Sao Tome and Principe's presidential election as peaceful and well organized. This is despite being held in a complex political environment. Now, preliminary results show incumbent Carlos Villanova winning with just under 56% of the vote. This is ahead of Nito de Abrea, but voter turnout was notably low. This is at around 41%, marking record high abstention. The election took place against the backdrop of internal divisions within the ruling party, which shaped the political landscape, especially as major opposition parties did not field candidates. While the electoral process was efficiently managed, including improvements to the voter registration, challenges remain around legal clarity, inclusivity and diaspora participation. The campaign period was largely peaceful with balanced media coverage, although misinformation on social media and restrictions on citizen election monitoring raised concerns. The EU mission will remain in the country to observe the final stages, including results confirmation and any legal challenges, before issuing a comprehensive report with recommendations. Okay, so that, of course, now takes us to South Sudan, which is taking a significant step toward strengthening its agricultural sector. With the launch of the South Sudan Agriculture Development Program, the initiative aims to boost food production, improve livelihoods, and build some resilience among farmers in a country where agriculture remains a critical pillar for economic recovery and food security. The program is expected to support smallholder farmers, enhance value chains, and address challenges like climate shocks and limited infrastructure. We take a closer look at what this program means for South Sudan and the millions who depend on agriculture for their survival. For more, we joined on the line by Caroline Mwongera, who's the International Fund for Agriculture Development, IFAD County Director in South Sudan. A very good evening to you and welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Good evening and greetings from Juba.
Now, South Sudan has enormous agricultural potential, yet it continues to face very severe food insecurity. What has prevented that potential from being unlocked? And also perhaps expand a little on how this program aims to break such a cycle.
Yeah, so if I could start to say there's a lot of potential, like you have rightfully said. South Sudan has enough land and water to feed itself. Actually, it has close to 50 billion cubic meters of renewable fresh water. And every year, agriculture is only utilizing about 1% of this capacity. What we see is a multitude of issues that are affecting agricultural production. And what we have in terms of the data for the last year, the country required about 2 million tons of cereals to feed its population. It's a young population, 15-year-old country, with nearly 12 million people living in the country. However, the country is still dependent on imports and humanitarian assistance. So close to 50% of the food needs every year is coming from imports. The challenges that we see in the country mainly is because there's climate shocks. It's the 15th most climate vulnerable country in the world. So the impact of recurrent floods and droughts against a fragile context, which is faced by violence, is affecting agricultural production.
Mm-hmm. So as you mentioned some of the pressing challenges that you've just ironed out, how does a program like SADC now fit into the regional and continental food security goals? Because it would be important to also get a sense of what makes it different from previous agricultural interventions.
Yes. So what SADC which is a sustainable agriculture development program that has been launched today by IFAD. It was a very proud moment for us today.
Mm-hmm.
The first aspect is, of course, on sustainability, which, as you see, is in its in name. So why we would like to build sustainability, we realize a lot of the needs of the country for feeding itself, in particular, dependence on importation of improved seed, is really affecting the country's production and productivity. So SADC is going to focus, one, on building a seed system, focusing on very critical value chain, which is sorghum, which is a staple food of South Sudan. So we are looking at the sorghum-based food system, which is sorghum in association also with groundnuts and sesame, the three key crops that are consumed by the population. The second aspect, we are looking at how can we build climate resilience. So we have earmarked around 61% of the funding in SADC to build climate resilience through, for instance, providing farmers with irrigation that is climate smart, also ensuring that they can be able to get access to waterproofed roads that can survive floods, because also, in addition, South Sudan has very poor linkages between the agricultural fields and the markets. So we are looking at also developing roads as well as other infrastructure that is required for agricultural production. So those are the two aspects that the project is going to focus on.
As you mentioned, smart agriculture and helping farmers adapt to more frequent floods and droughts, we know that the initiative promises to improve food production and livelihoods, as you've just ironed out. What tangible changes should farmers be expecting over the next 2 or 3 years as you try and get a sense of measuring the impact of this program?
The farmers that we are going to focus on, we are expecting to support 112,000 people. At the end of the program, or even during the program, they're going to see better infrastructure for post-harvest management, better roads in the areas where they're producing. They're also going to be able to see a very close support by extension agents. So we are bringing extension closer to the people. So we are going to support the extension agents, the government extension service, to be able to really provide climate smart technologies and knowledge and capacity to the farmers. In addition to that, we're also bringing a lot of investment to the rural producer organization. So we are going to give them resources that can help them to become business-oriented producers. Mm-hmm. So for instance, those who would like to do storage facilities, milling, threshing, this kind of investments will also be supported by SADC. So we are bringing the services closer to the population, as well as ensuring that the farmers become the center of the investment. So they're not a beneficiary. In IFAD, we do not consider the communities that we work and serve as beneficiaries. Rather, they are going to be participants in that program. Mm. So they will also benefit through the services and as well as co-invest. For example, by working on the investments that are going to be supported by the program. We're also going to provide opportunities to work on the roads, what we call labor-intensive public works. Mm-hmm. So these are also ways that communities can become enabled to already start to benefit through the program. Mm. By investing in that program, realizing benefits as well as increased production and productivity, as well as better markets. How can they reach their produce to the markets, and how can they be able to find better incomes through, for example, adding value to the produce that is going to be produced and ensuring that the production is also of high value in terms of quality that is taken to the market.
Yeah, that's fantastic, because access to markets is just as important as production itself. And very quickly before we let you go, I mean, conflict and displacement continue to disrupt farming in parts of South Sudan, as you briefly mentioned at the start of our discussion. How are you going to implement this long-term agricultural program in such a fragile environment, because that in itself will require some sort of safeguards to ensure that the program is able to continue and make the impact that you speak of.
Yes. For South Sudan, the design of IFAD's programs is already taking a lens of what we call fragility. In this year's classification that was released by the World Bank actually this month, South Sudan has been categorized under both the institutional fragility as well as the fragile conflict and violence context situations. So we are taking already that lens. And what we do is that we, for example, identify what activities could start if there was violence. How do we sequence activities so that the program can continue to run? How do we ensure that we also build in cohesion through the program? So one of the approaches that we are using is that we go to the communities to identify the needs of that community, an approach that we are calling the community-driven development approach, so that the project is fostering cohesion, ownership, and involvement of communities as a way of building peace. Also, we see that there's a lot of conflict because that is caused for competition of natural resources. So natural resource management is also one of the critical investments that we are bringing. That includes, for example, ensuring that we are reducing deforestation, such as through ensuring that for the fisher folk that we support, they can be able to build boats that are not destroying the forest cover of the country. So we are also reducing that competition for resources and bringing more opportunities that will help the young people not be involved in violence. So one of the targets then for us is that 40% of the investments should target young people. When we engage them in agriculture through this program, then we are going to be able to keep off these young people off from being involved in violence and being used in political violence situation.
It sounds like a fantastic initiative. Thank you so much for speaking to us. We hope to catch up with you as the implementation is in full swing. Caroline Mwongera, who is the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD County Director in South Sudan.